SAP, one single transaction code can somehow tell the system to post money to a whole bunch of different accounts? Well, today on the Explainer, we're going to unlock that puzzle with a really core concept, the account grouping code. It is a small detail for sure, but it makes a huge difference in getting your financial postings automated correctly.
Okay, so here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll talk about the posting problem, why this is even a challenge in the first place. Then, we'll cover the basic building blocks, value strings, and transaction keys. That's going to lead us right into what I call the GBB dilemma, a classic SAP puzzle. From there, we'll reveal the solution, the account grouping code, and then we'll walk through a real-world example so you can see exactly how it works.
All right, let's dive right in and set the stage. In SAP's inventory management, the whole point is to have the system figure out the accounting for you, right? Automatically? But that automation actually creates its own little problem. How does the system handle one really general key that needs to point to many, many specific accounts?
So this is really the central question for today. How is it even possible? How can the system know where to send the money when you've got a single generic code being used for a bunch of different business activities? I mean, it seems like it would be a total mess. But as you'll see, SAP has a pretty clever way of handling it.
Okay, so to really get our heads around the solution, we need to cover a couple of foundational concepts first. Think of these as the absolute basic building blocks that control how all these financial postings work behind the scenes in the system. Let's start with the value string. The easiest way to think about a value string is just as a container, or maybe a toolkit. So when you do something in the system, like a goods issue, SAP grabs the right container, and inside that container are all the possible financial transactions that could happen because of what you just did.
And the transaction key? Well, that's the specific instruction inside the container. It tells the system exactly what kind of financial entry to make. So if the value string is kind of like a menu of options, the transaction key is the specific item you're ordering off that menu. Okay, so now that we've got the basics, let's see where this all gets, well, a little complicated. And we're going to use one of the most common, most versatile transaction keys in all of inventory management to do it, GB.
So this key, GBB, is a real workhorse in the system, but its job description, offsetting entry for inventory posting, is super broad. And that's exactly where our challenge starts. It's used just about everywhere.
And this lays out the problem perfectly. Look at this. We have three totally different business activities. First, issuing goods to a department. Second, scrapping some old material. And third, adjusting for an inventory count. Now, from an accounting perspective, each of these needs to hit a different GL account, but the standard system funnels all of them through one single transaction key, GBB. So how in the world do we tell them apart?
So how does SAP solve this puzzle? Well, it doesn't create dozens of brand new transaction keys. That would get messy. Instead, it introduces a simple but an incredibly powerful little tool to add that layer of detail right where we need it most. And here it is, the account grouping code. Now, the crucial point is that this code doesn't replace the transaction key. No, it works with it. It just adds another layer of detail. And here's a key tip for you. Remember that other name, general modification? You're going to see that exact term all over the system's configuration screens, and it means the exact same thing. I love this analogy because it just makes so much sense. Think of it like this. The transaction key, GBB, it's like the main street address. It gets the financial posting to the right building. But the account grouping code, that's the specific apartment number. It tells the system exactly which door to knock on. Simple as that.
All right, enough theory. Let's get our hands dirty and see how this actually works inside the system configuration to get our postings pointed to the right accounts. This is where it all comes together.
Okay, so if we peek inside the system in transaction OBYC, which is really the heart of where MM and finance meet, you'll find a configuration table that looks something like this. And the key to solving our GBB puzzle is that column often abbreviated as AG. This is our apartment number in action. And here's what that table looks like. Now look at this. We've got two lines, right? They look almost identical. Same chart of accounts, same transaction key, GBB, same valuation class. The whole rule is the same except for one field, that AG column, our account grouping code. You see, the first line is blank, and the second one has the code VBR. So that first line, the one where the AG column is blank,
Think of that as your default, your catch-all. This might be for a general inventory posting, like an initial stock load. The movement type used for that action doesn't supply an account grouping code, so the system matches this blank line and posts the offset to our standard stock account.
But here's where the magic happens. When we do a totally different action, like a goods issue to a cost center, that specific movement type is configured to pass along the code VBR. Now, the system sees VBR and it completely ignores that first blank rule. It finds a perfect match on the second line and boom, it reroutes the posting to a completely different GL account, in this case, our consumption expense account. See, it's the same transaction key, GBB, but a totally different financial result, all thanks to that one small code.
So let's just quickly recap the key takeaways here. The account grouping code, or general modification, is what gives you the power to make your automatic account determination so much more precise. It's what lets a single transaction key, like our friend GBB, post to many different accounts depending on what's actually happening in the business, which is usually driven by the movement type.
And hey, one last thing. This is super important, and it comes straight from SAP's documentation. You have to remember that this amazing tool is designed for inventory management, for goods movements. It is not available for invoice verification transactions, so just keep that key limitation in the back of your mind.
And that leaves us with a final thought for you. Now that you understand the power of account grouping codes with GBB, take a look at your own system. What other transaction keys are maybe a little too broad? Where else could you apply this same logic to bring more clarity, more precision to your company's financial postings? Thanks.
Hey everyone, and